Something closes today, not in the way things close when they end painfully and leave you wondering what you did wrong, in the way things close when they finally, completely, irreversibly lock into place, when the uncertainty that has been living in the background of a situation you cared deeply about suddenly resolves into something solid, when the love that has been hovering just outside of full commitment finally steps all the way in. Today, June 25th, Venus forms a trine with Saturn. I want to explain what this portal actually does, because I do not want you to experience today without understanding the specific mechanism of what is happening in the sky above you. Venus governs love, attraction, and the quality of connection between two people. Saturn governs structure, permanence, and the specific kind of commitment that endures long after the initial feeling has settled into something more grounded. When these two planets form a trine, the easiest, most harmonious aspect available in astrology, something shifts in the energetic field surrounding love. The soft, flowing, sometimes uncertain energy of Venus meets the solid, structural, enduring energy of Saturn, and what is produced is not simply a nice day for romance. It is a locking in, a portal that closes the gap between what love has been feeling like and what love is now ready to actually be. The portal opens and closes in a specific window. Today, June 25th, is that window. And for 3 specific signs, what closes through this portal today is something they have been waiting for, sometimes without fully realizing they were waiting for it for a very long time. Before I tell you about the 3 signs, I want to explain what closure actually means in the context of this portal, because the word closure often gets associated with endings. This portal produces a different kind of closure, the closure of a loop that has been open. The completion of a circuit that has been carrying current without a destination. The specific satisfaction of something unfinished finally finding its finish. For some of you, this closure arrives through a conversation that has been waiting to happen, words finally spoken that put something to rest that has been living unsettled between you and someone significant. For others, it arrives through a decision, finally made, to commit fully to something or someone that has been held at arm's length out of uncertainty or fear. For others still, it arrives through an internal shift, a specific moment of understanding that settles something that has been contested in your own heart, a knowing about a relationship that replaces the confusion that has been there instead. All of these are forms of closure. All of them are what the Venus-Saturn portal delivers on June 25th. Now let me tell you about the 3 signs for whom this closure arrives most directly. The first sign is Libra. Libra has been in a specific kind of limbo with love for longer than feels sustainable. The weighing, the considering of every angle, the careful calibration of how to proceed without making a mistake, has produced a situation where Libra is standing in the middle of something genuinely significant without fully committing to it or fully releasing it. Today, the Venus-Saturn trine ends this limbo. Saturn, moving through Libra's relationship-oriented sector, provides the specific structural clarity that Libra's scales have been unable to produce on their own. The decision that has been perpetually deferred becomes undeferrable today. Not through external pressure, but through a specific internal settling that makes continued indecision feel less safe than it previously did. Libra gets closure today through the resolution of indecision. The loop finally closes. The second sign is Taurus. Taurus has been holding something in love that is heavy, a situation that required significant patience, significant loyalty, significant willingness to stay in something that has not yet produced the resolution it was always building toward. Venus, Taurus's ruling planet in a trine with Saturn today, speaks directly to the specific quality of faithfulness Taurus has been maintaining. And what it says is this: what you have been holding has been recognized. The endurance you have practiced is the very thing that made today's closure possible. Taurus gets closure today through the confirmation that the patience was not misplaced. What was being built through the waiting finally becomes visible enough to validate the entire season of holding on. The third sign is Capricorn. Capricorn has been keeping love at a specific distance, not because the feeling was not real, but because the feeling felt unsafe to fully inhabit. A previous experience, or the accumulated weight of multiple previous experiences, taught Capricorn that full emotional investment produces a specific vulnerability that is difficult to recover from when it does not go well. Today, Saturn, Capricorn's ruling planet in trine with Venus, provides something Capricorn has rarely been able to access in the territory of love: a safe structure for full emotional investment, a configuration that says this one is solid, this one is worth the full commitment, this one will not require you to rebuild yourself from scratch if it goes wrong, because this one is not going to go wrong. Capricorn gets closure today through the permission to fully love without reservation. I want to talk now about what the other signs can expect today, because while these three receive the portal's closure most directly, the Venus-Saturn trine affects everyone. Aries feels today as a specific solidifying of something they have been moving toward in love. The impulsive, action-oriented energy that characterizes Aries in romance gets grounded today into something with staying power. If you have been pursuing someone or something in love with the characteristic Aries intensity, today is the day that intensity gets its structural confirmation. What you were pursuing becomes something more solid than a pursuit. Gemini experiences today as a clarifying of a specific relational confusion. The multiple perspectives that Gemini naturally holds about any given situation, including romantic situations, tend to produce a specific kind of complexity that can prevent clear decision-making. Today, Saturn's precision cuts through the complexity and delivers a specific, singular clarity. The confusion that has been sustaining ambiguity clears. Cancer feels today as a deepening. Already in the Sun's current home sign, Cancer has been particularly emotionally attuned throughout this season. Today's Venus-Saturn trine gives that emotional attunement a structural anchor. Feelings that have been vivid but somewhat amorphous settle into something more defined. A relationship that has felt emotionally significant becomes structurally recognized. Leo, with Venus currently moving through its own sign, receives today's portal as a confirmation of worth. Leo in love often gives generously, and then wonders quietly whether what they give is valued at the level it deserves. Today, Saturn's involvement provides the specific, unambiguous confirmation that yes, what you bring to this relationship is seen, is valued, is worth committing to consistently rather than simply appreciating occasionally. Virgo experiences today as a settling of a specific worry. The analytical, detail-oriented quality of Virgo in love often produces a running list of concerns about whether a relationship is truly sustainable, truly compatible, truly safe to invest in fully. Today, Saturn provides the structural answer to Virgo's most pressing relational concern. The specific thing you have been uncertain about clarifies today. Scorpio experiences today as a release of something that has been held too tightly. Scorpio holds love intensely, which can create a kind of grip on relational situations that prevents the natural evolution that loosening slightly would allow. Today, the Venus-Saturn trine gives Scorpio permission to trust the structure enough to loosen the grip, knowing that what is real will remain without requiring constant maintenance. Sagittarius experiences today as the arrival of something unexpected. The specific kind of commitment that Sagittarius has been convinced was incompatible with the freedom they require suddenly reveals itself as not only compatible with freedom, but as the very thing that makes genuine freedom possible, rather than simply perpetual restlessness. Aquarius experiences today as a breakthrough in a conversation that has been circling without resolution. The specific thing that has needed to be said finally gets said today, with the kind of honest structural clarity that Saturn produces in communication, and what comes out of that conversation changes the relational dynamic in ways that have been needed for a long time. Pisces experiences today as the arrival of something they nearly stopped believing was coming. The hopeful, faith-oriented quality of Pisces in love often sustains hope longer than most signs would, but even Pisces' hope has limits. Today arrives at exactly the right moment, before the hope ran out, delivering the specific confirmation that what Pisces was believing for was real all along. I want to talk now about something specific to the closure this portal delivers, something that I believe is important to understand in order to receive it fully rather than only partially. Closure, in the context of the Venus Saturn portal, is not always comfortable in the moment of its arrival. Some of what closes today has been keeping something else open by remaining unresolved. The relationship that has been suspended between what it is and what it could become has been keeping both people from fully moving in any direction. Today's closure, when it comes, may involve a moment of genuine feeling, of grief or relief, or both simultaneously, as the suspension ends and the situation becomes definitively one thing rather than continuing to exist in the uncomfortable space between. I want to invite you to receive whatever form the closure takes with genuine presence rather than immediately managing the feeling into something more comfortable. The feeling is part of the portal. The emotion that arises when something long unresolved finally resolves is real information about what the situation has meant to you, and allowing yourself to actually feel it rather than immediately moving past. It is part of how closure actually completes itself rather than simply arriving and then being bypassed before it can fully land. Feel what today brings, all of it. That is how the portal fully closes. I want to talk now about something practical, 3 things you can do today to actively work with the Venus Saturn portal rather than simply being a passive recipient of whatever it delivers. The first thing is to name honestly what you have been needing to resolve in love, not what you think you should want, not the polished, presentable version of your relational situation. The actual thing that has been most unsettled, most unfinished, most in need of the specific closure this portal delivers. Name it, even if only to yourself, with genuine honesty. The second thing is to have the conversation or take the action that your honest naming reveals. If what you named requires a conversation, have it today. Saturn's energy in a trine with Venus makes today unusually supportive of exactly this kind of honest, clarifying communication. What might have produced defensiveness or confusion on another day has a higher probability of producing genuine, structural clarity today. The third thing is to receive what arrives without immediately deflecting it. When the closure comes, when the clarity appears, when the loop finally closes, let it actually land rather than immediately analyzing it back into uncertainty. The Venus-Saturn portal is delivering something solid today. Receive the solidity rather than immediately testing it back into ambiguity. I want to talk now about something for those of you for whom today's closure is not the arrival of commitment, but the confirmed ending of something that needed to end. The specific closure of a chapter that has been overstaying its time because neither person was quite ready to actually close it. This is also what the Venus-Saturn portal delivers, and it is equally valuable, though it does not feel that way in the moment. When a situation that has not been serving either person finally, clearly, undeniably ends, what the portal delivers is freedom. The freedom to stop spending energy maintaining something that was not producing what it was supposed to produce. The freedom to redirect that energy toward what is actually meant for this season. The freedom that comes only when something that needed to end finally, honestly does. If today's portal delivers this kind of closure for you, I want you to receive it as the gift it is, even while it is painful. The ending that arrives through today's Saturn precision is an honest ending, a clear ending, one that does not leave the ambiguous loose threads that more casual endings tend to leave. What closes today closes completely, and what closes completely leaves room that was not there before. I want to close, finally, with something about what locking in actually means in the context of a love that the Venus-Saturn portal confirms. When something locks in today, it does not mean it becomes static or effortless or free of the ongoing work that all genuine love requires. It means it becomes stable. It means the foundation is now solid enough that what is built on it can be built with confidence rather than with the perpetual background uncertainty of whether the foundation itself will hold. This is the gift of the Venus-Saturn portal, not a love that asks nothing of you, a love that you can trust enough to invest in fully, to build on genuinely, to bring your whole self into without the constant hedging of someone who is not sure whether what they are standing in is solid. Today, the foundation locks. and what you build from here on that locked foundation is finally free to become everything it was designed to become. I want to add something more before this message closes, something about what the Venus Saturn portal means for the specific quality of love it is locking in, because not all commitment is the same, and I want you to understand what specifically is being confirmed today. The love that the Venus Saturn portal locks in is not the love of initial chemistry, which can be intense but which does not, on its own, produce the kind of stability that a life built around it requires. It is not the love of comfortable habit, which can feel secure but which lacks the genuine choosing that makes commitment meaningful rather than simply convenient. The love being locked in today is the love of genuine, clear-eyed choosing. The love that has had the opportunity to see the other person clearly, with their complexity, their limitations, and their specific qualities, and has chosen them not despite this clear sight but through it. The love that does not require the other person to remain perfectly curated or perpetually performing in order to maintain the choosing. The love that says, I know what I am choosing, and I am choosing it deliberately, with the full knowledge that comes from having been present long enough to actually know. This is what Saturn's involvement confirms, not the feeling that someone gives you, the choosing that you do with clear eyes. I want to talk now about something for those of you who are watching today unfold and wondering whether the closure the portal promises is going to arrive visibly, through something clearly recognizable, or whether it might be something more internal, more subtle, harder to point to from the outside. Both are valid. The Venus-Saturn portal delivers closure in the form that the specific situation requires, which means for some of you it arrives through an external event, a conversation, a gesture, a clear development in a specific situation. For others, it arrives as an internal shift, a specific moment of knowing that resolves something that has been unresolved in your own heart about a relationship or about what you want from love in this season. The internal closure is not less real or less significant than the external one. A clear knowing, settled in your spirit, about what is true in a relational situation is exactly the kind of closure Saturn provides. Saturn is the planet of truth, of honest reckoning, of the specific clarity that comes from seeing reality rather than the version of reality you were hoping for. When Saturn delivers internal closure today, it is delivering the gift of actually knowing, which is considerably more valuable than the continued comfortable uncertainty of not quite being sure. I want to talk now about something for those of you in the specific situation of having a connection with someone who has been inconsistent, who has been sometimes fully present and other times distant, who has been sometimes warm and engaged and other times unavailable in ways that have produced a specific kind of relational exhaustion from never being sure which version would show up. Today's Venus-Saturn portal is particularly relevant for this situation. Saturn does not tolerate inconsistency in the territory it structures. When Venus and Saturn come together in a trine, the inconsistency that has been the defining feature of a connection tends to resolve into one of its two underlying realities. Either the person demonstrates, through a clear and structural action or conversation, that they are genuinely ready to show up consistently, that the inconsistency was temporary and circumstantial rather than foundational and character-based, or the pattern of inconsistency becomes undeniably clear enough that continuing to hope for a different pattern becomes genuinely impossible. Today you receive your answer about the inconsistent person. And whichever answer arrives, it is more valuable than the continued uncertainty of not knowing. I want to talk now about timing specifically, because the Venus-Saturn portal is not indefinitely open. Today, June 25th, is the peak of this specific configuration, the day when its energy is most concentrated and most active. However, the transit carries influence across a window of a few days before and after the exact aspect, which means if something significant does not land dramatically today itself, the energy remains active in the immediate days surrounding it. I also want to note that June 25th sits in a particularly significant position in the broader month. Mercury retrograde begins on June 29th, which will bring a different quality of energy to communication and to relational situations, one that tends to resurface things from the past rather than lock in things for the future. This means today's portal is the last clear window before that retrograde energy introduces its particular kind of revisiting and review. Use today deliberately. Have the conversation now rather than thinking you will have it after June 29th. Receive the clarity now rather than waiting for a moment that will feel more convenient. The portal that is open now today on June 25th offers exactly the kind of clean, structurally solid closure that will be considerably harder to access once the retrograde's more fluid, revisiting energy takes hold. I want to close, genuinely and completely, with something about the relief that closure actually brings once it fully lands, because I think this is something that is underestimated when we are anticipating closure rather than having already received it. The specific relief of a loop finally closing is one of the more profound physical and emotional experiences available to a human being. The background energy that was being used to sustain the open loop, the low-level processing of an unresolved situation that runs continuously beneath ordinary conscious awareness, suddenly becomes available for something else. The specific kind of tiredness that comes from holding something open indefinitely, without quite realizing how much it was costing, suddenly has the chance to release. You may not fully appreciate how much the unresolved situation was weighing on you until today's portal closes it, and you feel, perhaps surprisingly, the specific lightness that is actually just the absence of a weight you had gotten so used to carrying that you stopped noticing it. Let that lightness arrive today. Let the relief be as full as it actually is. And then let the energy that the closed loop releases become available for what the new chapter, beginning today on a locked foundation, is ready to build. The portal closes today. The loop is ready to complete. And what locks in on June 25th is exactly what has always deserved to be permanent. I want to leave you with one final image before this message ends, something to carry with you as you move through the rest of today watching for what the portal delivers. Think of a door that has been ajar for a long time, not fully open, not fully closed, just ajar with the ambiguity of something that could go either way. The draft that comes through that ajar door is constant. It is not dramatic, but it is always there, a reminder that something is unresolved, something is neither here nor there, something has not yet committed fully to being open or to being closed. Today, the Venus Saturn portal closes that door, completely, deliberately, with the specific quality of something that is now genuinely closed, genuinely settled, genuinely no longer in the realm of ambiguity. And what happens when that door finally closes is not loss, it is warmth. The draft stops. The specific kind of low-level ambient discomfort of the perpetually unresolved situation simply ceases, and what remains is a room that, with the door finally closed, is actually habitable in a way it could not be while the draft was constant. Receive the closing today, chosen one. Let the door close. And discover what the room feels like when the draft is finally, permanently gone. And if what you were holding was genuine, if the love you have been sustaining was real and the connection was true and the commitment that was always supposed to arrive simply needed today's portal in order to lock, then what closes is not the relationship. It is the uncertainty. The relationship remains. The ambiguity does not. What you are left with once the portal closes the uncertainty is the relationship itself, finally standing clearly in its own light, no longer shadowed by the question of what it actually is. That is the most beautiful kind of closure available, not the end, the beginning, finally certain of what it is. Write 11 in the comments if you feel this locking in for you today. I read every comment. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because what Venus and Saturn lock in today continues to build through the rest of this week, and you are going to want to know what comes next.